I studied abroad in Ghana.
I went to Egypt,
Paris in France,
Beijing, China,
Italy,
to India,
Ghana.
I decided to go to Egypt mainly because of the location.
To go to an art school in China.
Expose myself to something that I hadn't studied yet.
learning Italian,
Study South Indian classical dance form.
studying the French language.
And I wanted to do something that was culture, me exposing myself to something I wasn't familiar with.
We offer several programs, typically 3 to 4 weeks long in the January intersession, and 4-week or somewhat longer sometimes programs in the summer. In addition, we offer at this moment 4 semester or year-long reciprocal tuition exchanges. Hunter students can also go on programs organized by any other CUNY school on a so-called e-permit. They also can go on any program run by SUNY schools, and SUNY between their different campuses have many programs abroad. Also, Hunter is a member of a consortium called USAC.
I went on the Kerala Study Abroad program to India. It was a performing arts program where you learned either dance or theater. And our program started we woke up at 7 a.m., then you had breakfast at 8. If you were late, then you missed breakfast. We started dance class at 9 a.m. until 12. Then we had lunch for an hour, and you could nap or go to the store, whatever you wanted. But we always lost power at lunchtime, so there wasn't much we could do in our rooms. So most of us just took a nap. And then we danced from 2 to 5 p.m. And then after that, we usually would go see a show or go to visit some place. I was able to study in the way that it was first taught, which is every day for 5 hours a day, you have one teacher. And the way that it's taught there, outside, on the concrete, with nature around, that was the way that it was taught in the past. And here, we learn it in a studio, so it's a little different here. So I was able to get a feel for it in a different way than I would here.
So it actually covered religion and politics. That was the program. A lot of lectures were on site, so if we went to a religious site, we just sat down on steps there and we talked about the place, its meaning, its history. Some of the lectures we had in organizations. And we were also taught a little bit of colloquial, spoken Egyptian Arabic. So if there was a component, like a sit-down component of that, it's when we would sit down to learn Egyptian Arabic in the morning before we went out to do our main lectures. On our first day of colloquial Arabic, we got this sheet and it had the most commonly used phrases. So we had salam alaikum, which is like a greeting, and you reply alaikum assalam.
As a kid, I gained a really great foundation in the language, and I just never was able to finish it. So I went and I learned French, and it was a phenomenal experience because everybody there was from a different country. Everyone in my class was from a different country. So we had to speak French. We couldn't speak English. And because I had to speak French, all the hours that I was in class every single day, I really learned French. And I can have a conversation in French. I never really thought that that's what I would actually be able to do after that class because it was only a month long. And I feel like I really did fulfill those expectations.
My career as an English as a second language teacher has really blossomed due to my exposure to this learning experience, specifically in Italy, because I was learning Italian for the very first time. And I can really appreciate firsthand how a new person, a new student or a new learner in our country learning English for the very first time, how difficult, challenging, scary, threatening, all of those emotions can really be when you live in another country.
I went to an art school called Central Academy of Fine Arts. In Chinese, it's Zhongyang Meiyuan. Over there, their priorities of what they think is essential to someone learned in art or someone pursuing a career or pursuing a passion in art is somewhat different than what Hunter or an art school in the US, their priorities would be for teaching an art student, and more drastically would be how they choose to teach these priorities and how they choose to cultivate the student themselves. And so once you get another perspective, or once you start looking at it from another angle, just in terms of how people teach you, how people expect you to learn, how you learn in a different environment, how you can structure that same type of environment in a place like New York, because I mean, New York, you can access anything really. It really opens you up to thinking about how you take in information, how you process information, how you actually learn what you process. These things were extremely relevant to what I'm trying to do.
You know, being a history major, I really wanted to expose myself to something that I hadn't studied yet.
Yeah, I'm very interested in studying the developing world. And, Ghana is a developing country, and I really like being out there in the bus and just seeing the streets and all the type of construction that's going on. And also talking to people, just getting their opinion about where the country's headed, about what the real politics is, and how they just see the world in terms of politics. Because being here in the U.S., we kind of have the mentality that we're at the center of the universe, whatever. It was very interesting to see what other people thought about their country's place, on the global stage.
But I like being in Pescara. I liked being in off the beaten path. We were more engaged in the culture.
That's true. I liked it too. I think it was better to be in a small town than to be in a big city, because we got to see the big cities anyway. When we took the weekend trips, we went to Rome and Perugia and all those places. So being in a smaller town just makes you see Italy, like the real Italian culture.
We went to that place in the northeast of Ghana. I forgot what it was called. Udumasikwobo was the region called, where the school was located. And they had like schools, they had churches, but when you looked around, you couldn't really find one hospital. And even in Ghana, like we saw disease like polio. We saw people crippled on the streets with disease that you don't really see here. I've seen some of them in Haiti, but seeing them was like a reminder that some places around the world, they don't have like a health center, like a hospital every mile. They have one big teaching hospital, and that was about it.
I'm interested in doing research has to do with biology and mental health and things like that, and medicine. I definitely want to take part in Doctors Without Borders at some point later in my life, and I'm a bit more experienced. And Doctors Without Borders really needs doctors who can speak French as well as English, because there are a lot of countries, French-speaking countries, that are in great need of services like that. So I feel like I would be a really great candidate in the future if I continue to practice on my own, and this gave me a great start.
Going there was like a full circle. My family had left and then moved here and moved around the world, and then I was the first one on my mom's side of the family to go back there. So it made me feel closer to my culture.
One of the really rewarding things for me and challenging things for me was when I decided to go on this trip. I was a little bit concerned that because I was older than most of the students, that I wasn't going to fit in or make friends and kind of be left out of everything. But everybody was a great, family-focused, friendly group. We all were compatriots learning and struggling to get around Italy, and
We became like a family. We became so close together, and we all became really good friends, because being in an environment when everybody's so friendly and everybody's so happy to be with each other, we kind of got, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And we got super friendly and super close with each other, and we made really good friends.
And many students have commented on it, that it was wonderful to be abroad. It was wonderful to see all the things that you read about, all the monuments, all the culture, all the history, all famous churches and famous museums, but that they also discovered an awful lot about themselves being there. They found out whether they are flexible or not. They found out whether they are able to assimilate easily in different circumstances. Whether it takes them out of their regular comfort zone, and it shows them an awful lot about themselves and teaches them to approach the world from a more flexible, less rigid point of view.
I would definitely recommend people travel to any country that they don't know a lot about that's maybe talked about in the media, because you rely only on what people tell you about the country in the media. And if you go there yourself, you really see what it's like, and you can make your own judgments about the country and about the people, and hopefully they're going to be good.
I know New York City is really diverse. You see a lot of things in New York, but being moved out of your comfort zone and go to another country, see how people live, how they think, what's their culture like, that really it makes you a better person, because you're able to respect their culture, respect them better. It doesn't matter what your career will be in the future, but I think being able to interact with people and respecting them, treating them with dignity, if you don't know or don't understand their background, their experiences, you're not able to, accept them for who they really are.
Study abroad is not just an experience. It's not just about you go for a year, you come back. It's not about this little portal that you crawl into and then you end up in China, or you end up in Berlin, or you end up in Paris, and you stay there for a year, and then you crawl back this portal and you come back to the States, and that's all that happens. It's very not about a transportation. It's more about like this trek. It connects your whole life in that my education becomes one thing, because I went to this place and then I saw my education as a whole. And so hopefully everyone has that type of experience where you come back, and it's cliche, but you come back and you're just like, well, I look at education very differently. I look at how I use my time very differently. I look at how I see other people and how I make friends differently, because you just have to adapt to that. And so it's not an experience. It's more like something you kind of just take with you for a long, long time.